When something happens and you're a nurse to your patient, you kind of have this push of adrenaline, and it kind of gets you all, what are you going to do? Like the code light goes off in the hospital, my heart still starts pounding. I'm like, oh my goodness. So if these students are in these scenarios and they experience that emotional response when something bad is happening to the patient in a pretend type situation, because it really is, right? Then when they actually experience at the bedside with a live body, they'll know that that emotional response is going to come and be able to control it better.
So what we've discovered is that we really still need to run simulation like we always have with high fidelity, where there's a technician that's running the VR, running the sim manager, serving as the voice of the patient, because that's really what pulls students in and makes it more real, is that interaction. And you never know what a patient's going to say or what a student's going to say. So you need that technician to respond in real time, like a real patient would. Really using it the same as we've always done with simulation, just in a virtual format.
I was ascribing to the traditional VR concept that most people have, in that you come in, you put on the headset, and it teaches you. And that's what a lot of other softwares do. And I've tried them and I don't like it. And the reason being is because I'm trusting someone else to meet my students' needs. And my students' needs are individualized. Just like our patient needs are individualized when we provide care, our students' needs are just as individualized. So the thing I love about Acadicus is it allows me to build individual scenarios that meet my students' needs, meets my community's needs, meets my school's needs, and it's not focused on what someone else thinks is the best thing for my students who've never met them.
You can't just drop your kids off at daycare or at simulation and expect them to learn. It has to be facilitated. I've been doing my master's for the last couple of years, and the facilitation is truly the key.
With your program and with the program that your team has put together, John, is that you can make it fit your needs. So if we wanted to, as we just described, if we wanted to later on bring in a more realistic event for the students, we can do that, and they can study first in VR or non-VR, and then transition over to practice. And but it makes it more real for them as well. And that's one of the things that simulation and the VR systems have allowed us to do, is to make these events more real to students, so they transfer to practice a lot easier.
Acadicus is all the way over on the spectrum of operator controlled. The instructor is in the virtual room and they are running the simulation. This is the script we're going to do. This is what we want to learn from it. Now let's start at stage one. Most of the XR training programs that are automated, particularly, or semi-automated, do really well in medical schools because the students are learning the basics. Whereas in a hospital, we have to be able to train in the exact, precise procedures that are implemented in each particular department for each particular disease. We don't want something that's pre-scripted. You need a live human instructor involved.
I had a student who took her headset off and she's like, I can't wait to do more. She's like, when do we get to come back and do this again? When I come into a VR world, then I change the vital signs and I change the appearance of the patient. The student can see in real time what happens when we do things. Students are more engaged in this because they can see it happening instead of trying to imagine it. We're giving them actual patients that move and blink and breathe and have breath sounds and heart sounds, and that they can check pulses on just like they would in clinical. So they can actually see the result of their actions in a way that feels meaningful. We're seeing the results of that in how they're able to explain different principles during class time. I mean, students really are engaging with it, they enjoy it, and they come back asking to do more.
We expect that we'll be able to quickly configure a number of training simulations that we can deploy efficiently that are complementary and or parallel to our mannequin sims. Many of our processes and procedures developed for mannequin sims, will also work in Acadicus, and with certain limitations, right? But also with the advantages of VR. A high fidelity mannequin can do things that VR just can't. That kind of tactile learning. Whereas with VR, you can have the teamwork and the emotional immersion. And the virtual mannequin can interact with you in a way that a physical one couldn't. It will allow us to give trainees more time.
One thing that we talk a lot about in simulation is psychological safety. Oh my gosh, this is scary. I've never done this before. I'm totally panicking and freaking out right now. When I come into a VR world, like, we can have that real world reaction, but do it safely, so that way patients aren't being harmed ever. I like it because it allows us to scaffold their learning a bit, meaning that we can build their knowledge in a way that allows them to feel more secure. What we're finding is students are able to step into new situations because they feel like they have the thinking skills available to then enact the psychomotor skills that they need to be able to provide care at a clinical site. So it's a building type of educational process that allows them to trust their knowledge more and to have a greater sense that they are not going to cause the patient harm.